What is up, my people? Welcome to my channel, The Mad Hooter. I am The Mad Hooter, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about propaganda techniques. Um, and just to kind of preface, if you're new to my channel, which I've been around for a while, but I've kind of been taking some time off, just because life happens and you get busy and doing other things, and the channel hasn't been like a huge priority, especially when you have giant life things going on. So, what's driving me to do this is how much this stuff is boiling to the surface, and now we've gotten ourselves in a culture war, more so than in the '60s. I mean, everybody knows the hippie movement, the counterculture thing that happened in the '60s that bled into the '70s, and then towards the end of the '70s, everything got really drab and everybody settled down and things became really vanilla. Um, so now what's happening is uh, this culture war is sparking everybody, and it's having an effect on me because I have children that are they're college age now, and I have a son. He's 10, and so this whole culture war, the dynamic that's going on, is having an effect. Excuse me, on me and directly because it's affecting my family, and especially since I have mixed race children. Um, those of you who don't know, I've adopted uh, two daughters that I've raised from basically babies, and they're black or half black mixed. And as you can tell, maybe you can't tell, but that stuff there is pretty brown. I'm mixed like anybody else. I've got bright hazel colored eyes. You can see I don't need to hide my eyes. But I've got some Irish and Native American. So not exactly what you would consider white or whatever. I think I'm what most of us are nowadays, is which we're mutts, So, and that's a good thing because I find mutts to be the most loyal and dependable dogs ever. So take that how you will. Anyway, so I've been kind of like, I don't want to say triggered to do this stuff, but this whole culture war thing is having a direct effect on me. So it's driving me to do this kind of stuff, even if it's just for like vlogging purposes. So if you dig what I say or agree, or you hate what I'm saying and hate me or whatever, just share it with somebody or drop some comments below. Let's have a debate. Um, so there's that. So what I wanted to talk about today is propaganda techniques, because it's having, like I said, it's having a huge effect on what's going on in my life. I'm sure that there's people that live in, I don't know, one of the flyover states or whatever, and they don't really see any of this stuff. But I'm here in Texas, and I'm pretty close to Austin, and Austin has become, sort of this hipster, social justice warrior, central kind of area. And being a musician, I have a lot of friends that have become leftists, even though we've been hanging out for years, playing music and enjoying each other's company, and maybe had some light political conversations or whatever, and mostly agreed. And now this Overton window thing is shifting, and I'm like, hey man, where are you guys going, dudes? Like, come back over here to reality. And they're like, no, we gotta do this, and we've got all these causes, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, I'm losing friends, and it's not because when I try to talk to them, I'm trying to be pretty rational, but they just fly off the handle like, oh, no, oh. And you can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. You can't say, no, look, here's the problem or whatever. So let's get to it, the propaganda techniques. So the first thing that happens is with propaganda, you got to create some kind of alternate reality. So let's say you're maybe been in Jehovah's Witness or Scientology or something, and don't get me wrong, even Christianity, you see some of this stuff going on. I mean, it happens in Islam. Um, even Buddhists have put out propaganda, to try to shift people over, which is one of the reasons why the Shaolin temples were burned down. But that's a whole nother video, which I can go really into depth on Shaolin temple history and stuff. But so you got to create this alternate reality, and so like Jehovah's Witness, they created the whole thing like, only a certain amount of people are getting into heaven and this thing, and then they pick, and here's another term, cherry pick. So they pick things out of the Bible and whatever to legitimize their new reality, which is sort of different from Scientology, because Scientology just made up their whole new set of spaceships on mountains and all this stuff, and then the was it the Seamen or Sea Scouts or whatever? I can't remember. I watched a whole bunch of stuff on Scientology, and I kind of let a lot of it just like whatever. But yeah, so that you create this new reality, and then you got to get people to bite on it. So to believe in that new reality, you gotta latch onto something that, like, okay, here's an actual thing that's factual, or here's something that people already believe, and we'll use that to tow them in. Just like with the Catholic Church, the whole reason that we celebrate Christmas when we do, and a lot of these other holidays, is because it's based on pagan holidays. And so they were like, well, how are we going to get people to convert? Well, we can't convert these pagans because they're already having their own party right here. And they were like, well, what we'll do is we'll move our holidays where their parties are, and then that will be like, it's like, hey, we're still having a party too, but we're going to teach you some other stuff while you're at our party. And so that's how they do it. They create their own little reality, and then they use things that people already believe or that are factual, cherry pick them, and then they bring them over in this case. So now you got people on board, and now you gotta keep them there. So part of their the creating that reality is, you got to support it with basically the liar's negotiation. So you got to come up with phrases and other phrases that will help you with that, like the cherry picking and basically confirmation bias. So it's just like, we've gone through this. I'll drop a few, like weapons of mass destruction. If you want to get more current, Russian bots, collusion, carbon footprint, global warming. It's no longer climate change. Which brings me to a good point. So while you're using these new phrases to build your platform and to get people to conform and to buy into your thing, you also got to keep moving the goalposts. So the liar's negotiation is, to say, just like, let's take this whole Trump-Russia thing. It started off with Russians, they rigged our election to get Donald Trump in. And then that became to be false. I had no evidence of that. And then they were like, well, Trump colluded with Russia to get... And that became false. And so then it was just like, no, it's Russian bots. It's Russian bots. Hackers. Oh, that was the first thing they said. Oh, Russia hacked the election, which came out to be provably false, because the information that this whole thing was based off of that came from the DNC was leaked. The transfer rates proved that it came from a flash drive. So, story averted, but they're still running with it because they keep changing the story a little bit. They're like, okay, well, they proved that to be false, but no, we're going to move it a little bit. So that's another propaganda technique to keep people dragging along. So then the next thing to do is to get on a platform or create your platform to keep pushing this stuff. And so now we have just like what's going on right now. You got all the mainstream media, MSNBC, CNN, Young Turks, who are paid corporate. They took $20 million from corporate, kingmakers. So then they have this platform, and so now it's what they call gaslighting. So gaslighting is basically when you just say something over and over and over and over again, sort of like how Christianity spread, or Islam spread in its area, or whatever. This cultist mentality. If you just keep saying something over and over and over again, people go, "Oh well, oh yeah, Russians, yeah, they hacked the election." I mean, you go to average person down at your local grocery store, and you could say, "Hey, how about those Russians that hacked it?" They're like, "Yeah, man," and you're like, "Do you have any proof of that?" No, all you have is people saying it over and over again. It's a propaganda technique. It just rolls. It's like the telephone game, where you say something to somebody, and 5 people later, the story is completely different. It's all intertwined, the liar's negotiation and the propaganda technique. And it's like, let's just repeat that lie over and over again. If we say nothing burger, it's a nothing burger. If we say it's the worst thing and a million tiny Tims are going to die, if everybody comes out and says that, then all of a sudden it catches on. It catches fire, and the people that are just laymen or just passing by, they get hit in the head with it, like bam, oh, a million tiny Tims are gonna die if Trump passes this tax thing. So they move with that, and then they start spreading it, and it spreads like a fucking cancer over everybody, and more people start to believe this stuff. It's just like, they got, how many other things are there? One of the ones that bothers me is when you get like diversity. Our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is. How many times did Obama say that stuff? Diversity doesn't really matter. It doesn't. And then they're like, coexist unless you disagree. If you disagree, you are not allowed to be in our presence. And then they're like, genocide, fucking Nazis, blah, blah, blah. And they get all this revved up about this stuff. And so that brings me to the next level of the propaganda technique, which is shame. They do whatever they can. If you disagree, if you're trying to have a conversation, say you run into the guy at the grocery store, and somehow, something current comes up, Trump or whatever. They're like, oh, he rigged the election, blah, blah, he colluded with Russians. I'm like, okay, you got any proof of that? Oh, well, do you have any proof that he didn't? I was like, what kind of circle logic is that? And so as soon as you question them or disagree, they go after your character. You are a terrible person. You don't deserve to exist. You should be shouted down. You should be shamed. You should be doxxed. People should know where you live. People should know your name. And they should know that you're a Nazi, bigoted colluder with Russia, and you are a Russian bot. Or whatever it is. And they're going to do whatever they can to shame you. And so they group up. And then if you're not in the group, in the hive mentality, if you're not buying the initial story, and you're not sticking with the pack, you are out. And that's what cultists do. Jehovah's Witness, if you cross them, I have personal friends that have gone through this thing with the church, and one of them went back because he got so much crap from Jehovah's Witness. Think about that. I mean, he was in love with a woman, and he left her to go back with a woman he didn't love just because the church hassled him so much. The shame, and that's where it comes in. That's where I start getting. I'm like, you're shaming my kids? You're calling my kids names because they're not black enough? They don't believe this urban culture, blah, whatever. They act too white. They're Uncle Toms or whatever. Come on, man. That's where I start getting to the point. Like, really, all Trump voters support sexism and racism? This sounds logical to you. It sounds reasonable. Come on, man. Really. They're all terrible people. And, these media outlets, they spread it. Just wash it over people. And they know that they get people that buy it because they're just passerbys, and they're like, oh, wait, well, yeah. I hate racism. So anybody, yeah. Yeah, anybody Trump supporters, yeah, screw them. Let's get them. We got to shout them down. They're terrible, awful, deplorables. Meanwhile, their side that's pulling the strings of the propaganda is working them over, and we don't need to go into all of that right now. So you get creating a new platform or an alternate idea. You create phrases to support that platform. You gaslight the hell out of it, which basically means just repeat it over and over and over again. And then the people that don't get on board, shame them. And then lastly, you litter the entire platform with confirmation bias, articles, whatever. And most of them, if you do the research, you can pull it out, do the research, and it's false. But like the Not Liars negotiation, they keep, oh, well, that was proven false, but this part right over here wasn't. Yeah, and then when you prove that false, that's the moving the goalpost thing. So hopefully that kind of shed some light on, or at least how I see the propaganda techniques. And I've studied it quite a bit, and I could go in depth, and I might do some more actual screen sharing and stuff like that, videos, to kind of expose it. Rachel Maddow is like, she is the Lord Empress High Priestess of propaganda techniques, because she creates this alternate reality and bends and weaves and makes this story, and then towards the end, when she's got you, she just lays down a doozy of a lie. And people are like, oh, did you hear what Rachel Maddow said? She said blah blah blah, this Russian dossier is a nothing burger, and this is how Trump, this dossier actually shows how, whatever. It's all crap. Complete filth. I encourage you to do your own research. Don't just listen to what I'm telling you. Do your own research. Look around. Ask some questions. Ask questions. So anyway, that's it for today. I am the Mad Hooter. If you like what I have put in my videos, just get down there, comment. Drop some comments. I really appreciate it. Even if you want to slam me and say that I'm the world's biggest piece of filth or whatever, go. If you have other thoughts or whatever, drop them in the comments. Like, subscribe, share my videos around or whatever. Let's have some fun. Let's make our own soapbox to be on, and hopefully we can save some minds. That's all I want you to do, is question everything you see, especially when it comes from mainstream media. Just ask questions. Do a little digging. Alright? So, I am the Mad Hooter. Till next time, keep the faith.